on the FBI's investigation, saying, quote, "We are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains the top priority." So our senior NBA insider, Shams Charania, is joining us now. So Shams, what more can you share about how the NBA is moving forward with Billups and Rozier, respectively?
Christine, the NBA is cooperating with the FBI, with federal investigators. Kash Patel, the FBI director, obviously leading today's press conference. But obviously, clearly, this puts NBA careers in peril. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier. With Billups, you have a sitting NBA head coach, a Hall of Fame player, now being charged, arrested at 6 in the morning, right after coaching an NBA game in the season opener in Portland last night against Minnesota. He was on those sidelines, then hours later arrested in his Portland home. And then Terry Rozier was sitting on the bench last night in Orlando for the Miami Heat in their season opening loss. Several hours later, he's arrested at 6 in the morning in Orlando as well. So the NBA is going to cooperate. These are wire fraud charges, money laundering charges for Chauncey Billups, each count having 20 years to it, and then sports betting, gambling, essentially insider trading of information for Terry Rozier, as well as Damon Jones, the former NBA player and assistant coach. So in the interim, sources tell me Tiago Splitter will be named the interim head coach for the Portland Trailblazers. He's been an assistant in the NBA in Brooklyn and Houston since 2019. He coached in Paris, won a couple league championships there in Paris last season. So he will be elevated to the interim head coach for the foreseeable future here, because we don't know exactly where this is going to go, how long this is going to take for Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. A handful of people were charged with the Jontay Porter situation in 2024, 30 plus today, Christine. How many more can we see now moving forward? We don't know yet.
Yeah, as I said, I'm sure we'll learn a lot more. We know you'll keep us updated as soon as you know more. Shams, thank you.
Your NBA writer, Brian Windhorst, is here on the program. I give you the floor. What do you know right now about what the FBI is alleging?
Yeah,
Brian?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time this morning reading the indictments. And, there's two cases, as you may know. One is a pretty spectacular in terms of details case about illegal poker games, which I assume somebody will make a movie about someday. And it does involve NBA players or personnel. There are, I think, about 4 people who are charged in both cases. But that is not really what the NBA is going to be focused on and having to deal with. What they're going to have to deal with is the fallout of the other case, which involves illegal inside information on NBA games. Now, a lot of this was already known. Jontay Porter has already pled guilty to some of the stuff that's in this indictment. Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat was already known to have been under investigation for a certain game in 2023. The NBA, in fact, is probably going to have to answer for why they allowed him to keep playing while the FBI was very clearly still investigating and still planning on possibly charging him, which they have done. And then there is a whole slate of incidences of people having leaking inside information of when players might be available for games. And some of these players are gigantic names. They're not named in the indictment, but if you pull back one layer, you can figure this out. In fact, Chauncey Billups isn't even named in this indictment, the head coach of the Trailblazers, who's now been put on leave by the league office, as, by the way, as Terry Rozier, as I'm sure you've told your viewers. Chauncey is just described as co-conspirator 8, who is described as an Oregon resident who played in the NBA from 1997 to 2014.
Yes, we can figure that out now.
Okay.
It is, yes. Uh-huh.
So this is what the new information is, which is that Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups use their positions as coaches of teams to tell people who may be available. And what appears to be Damian Lillard and LeBron James, potentially also Anthony Davis. I'm not 100% sure about that.
So wait a minute, let me just jump in here. So you're saying Chauncey Billups, it's not just the poker thing, that he is also in this indictment alleged to have given out information as to who's playing and who's not?
Yes, that's correct. And that's what I'm not downplaying the poker thing, but
no, I hear you. I hear you.
The NBA isn't concerned today with whether people who were playing in illegal poker games got defrauded. I mean, they may feign that they care about that, but they don't care about that. They care about sensitivity information about their players and their games. And so what Chauncey is being accused of is, there was a tanking job going out in 2023 going on because people were really interested in getting their hands on Victor Wembanyama. And the Blazers weren't participating in that tanking situation. And there was a moment in March of that year where the Blazers basically seemed to have decided to put their tank in overdrive. And they decided they were not going to play their regulars anymore, but specifically they were not going to play Dame Lillard. And there was this day, I can't remember who they were playing, maybe the Jazz, but Damian was listed as probable with a calf tightness. And according to the indictment, I'm not saying it happened, I just said according to the indictment, Chauncey told somebody that Dame wasn't going to play amongst other players, even though he was listed as probable. As the day went along, he was then switched to questionable and then out, and then he never played again the rest of the season. The Blazers lost 15 of their last 17 games and ended up with Scoot Henderson, the number 2 pick, but not the number 1 pick. And then Damon Jones, who was sort of a volunteer assistant with the Lakers for several years. They accuse him of saying that LeBron was, and they don't say LeBron's name to be clear, they just say, they call him player 1 or player 2 or something like that, but they reference a game against the Bucks in 2023. It was the game after LeBron broke the scoring record, Kareem's scoring record. That game was against the Thunder, and LeBron was a relatively late scratch in that game. And the obviously not having LeBron, who was really close to the peak of his powers at that point, at least for that age, didn't play, and that information was used by people that Damon Jones told about it before it was public information. Then a year later, Damon apparently, according to the indictment, told these co-conspirators again that LeBron or Anthony Davis, it's not clear which, because both were on the injury report for a certain game against the Thunder, that they would either not play in that game or play less than normal minutes. At the time, the Lakers were under 500, and the Thunder were a very strong team. They had Chet Holmgren, he was playing. They had Jalen Williams, he was playing, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all played in that game. And in fact, LeBron and AD did play in that game, did play their regular minutes, and the Lakers pulled the upset. They had been not favored, and they came back and won. And the bettors, according to the indictment, the bettors were pissed off at Damon and asked for their money back that they had paid him for the information. So it doesn't even imply that this information was always accurate, but just that it was given. And there's also another game that was a reference between a Cavs and Magic game, also in 2023. Now, what I think I just want to point out is that this is so what the NBA is going to have to deal with here.
Yes.
Is obviously players with pulling themselves out of games with unders, but we frankly have known about that, unfortunately, for 18 months. That's the John T. Porter thing from 18 months ago. The thing that the NBA is going to have to deal with, and they already have dealt with in a certain extent, Rich, is that for decades, there's been this soft spot where people involved with the team, whether it's the players or the other people, support staff, know well before the injury list is changed that a player is going to play. So let's just say you have an average Thursday in November. There's a shoot around in the morning. A player is listed as questionable. Everybody at that shoot around sees that player can't walk. Okay? He's still listed as questionable, even though everybody knows he's not playing that night. That has happened for decades, and there have been people who could have passed that information on. Now, since sports betting became legal, the NBA, they recognize that this is a soft spot, and so they very vastly tightened their injury reporting. They now do injury updates all during the day, and they fine teams if they don't accurately tell injury situations. But that said, there is still this soft spot, largely in some cases because the teams don't want to let their opponents know who's going to be playing, and also, sometimes it's genuinely a game time decision. Sometimes you don't know whether a player is going to be able to play until he gets out there and warms up. And how does that calf feel? How does that, wrist feel? And so But there's this gray area there. And so what I suspect will happen out of this, I don't think that this is something that is a scandal that is going to rock the foundation of the league. I mean, I'm sure that's
you.